Ake and Hawo. And I just greeted you guys in my tribal language and said hello, thank you. My name is Jered Canty. I'm from the Catawba Nation of South Carolina. And it's a great privilege and honor to be here with you today. I'm going to be explaining the Catawba pottery. And Catawba pottery is an enriched heritage of my people's culture. And it dates back to the land bases stretching over North Carolina and South Carolina, and stretches into Savannah, Georgia. My tribe's river base is a really helpful resource for my people and for cooking and trades and a livelihood with jobs, because this would be a source and a skill that would actually make you money and keep livelihood for our people's sake. And it dates back to 6 generations. And you know, it actually is a very much of a custom. And the Catawba pottery is one of the oldest native potteries from the art form as far as the east of the Mississippi. And that continues to be made in South Carolina. And Catawba pottery has influenced the Cherokee people and their pottery making skills. And I think the first step would be digging the clay would be the first great point to start out with, because you would actually go and it would be an all effort day. And you'd be working with your relatives and you'd pack a lunch and it'd be an all-day effort, and it would be a great, joyful day. And I think just really working and listening to them, you know, sharing jokes and camaraderie and laughter and just listening and watching, because this method is something that you can't read from a book or pick up from, you know, a wheel. This is all natural, traditional way of working with clay and building your coals over your coals. And so the first step that you would actually work from would be getting you a board, wetting the board. And I've did a demonstration here with my pottery here. And so that's the first step. But I think first and foremost, after you dig the clay, you know, there's several requirements that goes into that before you can start getting to the building you a piece of pottery. It requires you to build a screen and build a box frame and take an old sheet and cover over it. And so that way you could take the clay and sift it and screen out any of those particles, any kind of dirt, debris, rocks, anything like that. So that's something you do not want in your clay, because it can cause air bubbles and air pockets, and so it could actually mess up your pots when you're working from and firing. And I think building that wire box with a screen over it and putting a sheet over it, that way after you start screening and sifting your clay, whatever's left on that screen you could leave till the next day, because that'll dry up and it'll make its own form of clay. And then you could work from that again the next following day. And it takes a lot of curing and processes like that for the methods to come true, so you can actually understand them more and see them more. And there's many tools that we would actually use as well, you know, anything from a spoon, you know, the back end of a spoon to rub with. That's one of the steps. You could use a knife, backside of a knife handle. You could use river rocks from the clay, from the river. There's many different methods that would go into all these things to make your pottery come out shiny and come out scraped and rubbed and cleaned and looking beautiful. And so, you know, even an old jar lids are a great method, you know. And I've learned a lot from my people just by seeing that. You know, those are things that you can't just, you know from, you know, shooting the hip. You know, you really got to know by learning and watching and listening and being observant. And so the second step that would actually go into, after you get your clay and you start working it up, you want to mash that clay up just like you see so. Take the palm of your hands, and on your board you want to kneel it. And so I'm going to turn this down this way some so you can see what I'm doing here. And so my hands would be the tool here. If that's all you had, then that's what you work from. And so by the time you start working your clay out, what you're doing here is you're trying to get all the air bubbles out. If there's anything in that clay, which your screen should have picked up, that way you can start forming whatever you want and work with it and make a ball and get the texture going here with the clay. I'm going to take some of these coals and let's see if I've got my jar. Normally I keep water in a jar because you can wet the top of your bowl to use from to actually make these coals sit a little bit better. And so what I do, I've got my knife or I've got my spoon. I can use a spoon and just dip it in there, rub it over the top like so, and then come over here and then rub it over the coals as well. And so making that base bond to the bowl is the key. And whatever you don't need, you can always pull off. You can use later. And so depending on how big a bowl you want to make, it's up to you. But I like to do a decent sized piece because it means something. It's very traditional for my people. This would be a way with a 4-stem Catawba piece, they would actually break bread and have trades and understandings. So I want to do it the right way, as Uncle would say. And you can just tuck. That's what you do. You can take your fingers just like this. If you didn't have a tool or anything, your hands can be your resources again, like I was saying. And we can come back and work on those ports again for air particles. But just tucking. And working with the clay. I find it great to just take your time with. And it's just a great meditation. You know, a lot of people say working with clay is like a meditation for almost like yoga or something. It's a great pastime to have, to use from, to work from. And so I'm gonna probably do one more layer maybe. And I'm wetting my top of my bowl here, and then right here again, wetting these coals. And I'm tying these coals in. And so I'm just trying to work that clay in some more. And that's probably a good sized bowl there. And then I'm just going to go back and smooth out any of the lines right here. No disrespect to anyone, you know, with this video. This is just all for creating, and it's a learning process for new beginners and anyone that wants to learn how to make pottery. I think that's great. And I'm very honored to be a part of this school demonstration so people can actually see the real history of Native culture and history. And now I'm just kind of working my bowl out. And I'm going to go back over it now and smooth some of that out. And then you can even rub after you've tucked in all those coals, you know. And it's very hard to, you have to kind of work as you go, and if you see a problem, you have to go back over. So it's very tedious, like I was saying earlier, but it just takes the time and the effort. And so if you get tired, you can always put it down and come back, put it down and come back. It's a learning curve. And then so I take my spoon, smooth that out some more. And we can set that there, because I'm trying to feel the walls out and see which one's is thinner and thicker. And you can always go back and spot feel some. And so I can tell I need some right there, so I'm going to take a little piece right here, rub it on the board some, wet that side of that bowl, wet the coil, and then just tuck it. And I just like to smooth over the edges some. And so now that I've got my base built, I'm just going back some with my hands, trying to work some of this clay back in. And now I've got a pretty good sized bowl. And then I'll take my coffee stem, and if I want to make that a little bit more rigid, I can just push my fingertips through the sides there, not too much, but just enough to kind of give it a shape, a little bit more of a, you know, however you want your base to be. And so now I'll take this and come through the sides here, just to make those air ports. So by using this, anything around the house to kind of help with things. And so you want to do 4 of them, because for Native peoples, 4 represents a very sacred number. It's very much a lot of spirituality with. And this would just be a traditional way of breaking bread again in trades and negotiations with others, with Europeans and whatnot, or even with bigger businesses and nowadays. And so I'm just working with what I got here. And there's no need to get in a hurry. So all we got is time. But if you do get antsy, like I said, step up. If you're a beginner, just do a little bit, come back. Do a little bit, come back. And so now that's looking like it's coming together pretty good. So now I'm going to work on my coals for the outside for the pipe. And I had some already chopped up, so I'm going to try to use the first one here. I'm still here, guys, so just in case you don't see all of me, you see the most important part is the methods that goes into working with the Catawba clay by Jered Canty. And so now, take that spoon again, gonna rub that, gonna rub every one of these little ports here. Get them bonded up. I'm just trying to tie it in now. And so I'm going to take this and work on the next one. And you could make legs on them if you want for your bowl, just like I'm doing these stems for the pipe. I'm just trying to work my coals again, rubbing them on the board like so. Creates that texture you need. And I think right there makes enough for what we need. And then I'll take my spoon again and I'll wet each side, wet the top again, because I'm in a different climate. I'm in the Southwest, so it does dry the pots out faster, the clay out faster. So I'm just going back over it each time, trying to keep it cool, keep it moist. So I'm going to work that up again. And there's always got to be one piece that gives you that trouble, but that's okay if it does. Just work with it. Wet in that bowl again. And so, even that one. Now going back over, trying to look at each piece, trying to make sure they're level. That's a process. So I can tell my side's off on here, on this side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to smooth that out. Push that side out some more. And then I'm going to take my spoon right over the spot that I want. And I'm going to take this, rub it down. Same way, rub it down. And I'm going to move it right up where I think it might need to go. And I think it might be too much, so I'll take a little bit off. And so I'm gonna take my coffee straw, push back through. And that way, I'm tying in those coils. And so there you have it, guys. A raw footage of a 4-stem Catawba pot. And again, I can see a little bit on this side, so what I'll do is I'll go back over here and I'll chop some off that side, because I just think it'd be a little bit better that way. And if you don't like that, then you can easily just take it off and work from it some more, whatever you think, which is what I might do. So just there you go, you take it off, work from it again till you get it the way you like it. And I'm gonna wet my side again there. So I'm trying to smooth it out some. And so if I don't like that one, I can always pick another one. I can take this coil right here that I already worked up, roll it out some more until I like it. that. And then take my spoon again with the side that I want. Let that in. Let that in. And so then you take a coffee straw, push back through. And that'd be that. So go back through again, make sure your port's open so you can have air access going through there, which we do. Might need to do a little on the inside there. Just fine. Come back through again, do the same thing. There you have it, raw footage, live action, Catawba action. And again, this is a process, you know, still it takes a lot of time and effort. Now where the board's still drying, you can kind of see, leave that pot there, let it sit until a few days until it pops off, and then you can come back, take your knife handle, scrape out, what you actually need to take off some. And then you can take your spoon, wet the whole pot again, rub it down after a few days after it's cured, and you got yourself a traditional 4-stem Catawba piece. Fifth step, and you don't want to have a lot of, you know, red hot coals or anything like that in your fire pit. What you want to do is dig a fire pit if you have to, and there's a couple different methods of ways you can burn, and that's one of the ones that's common. And you want the ashes, so once the coals and the embers get very hot, just let them burn down. And then once you have your pot scraped and rubbed and shined, you can take your pottery on out and let them sift in the ashes. That way it brings out the beautiful colorness that you would actually see from each piece. And that's a burning method that, you know, you want to do on a warm day. You know, it takes a lot too with watching the fire and making sure no embers hits the pots, because it could just crack them just like that. Or even on a chilly day, you know, the wind and the cold could easily just crack a pot in no time. So you want to definitely pick a warm day in about the 60 degrees to do your clay method and with burning. Thank you guys for joining me, and I hope you appreciate the Catawba history of culture with our pottery. Hooray. Thank you.